Welcome to Positive Recovery MD. If you're listening, chances are you want to create happiness around you and thrive in your life. We're glad you're here and you've come to the right place. This podcast will inspire and motivate you to not merely survive your recovery journey, we'll give you the tools to build or strengthen your foundation to thrive and flourish in your life. Each week, we'll come together as a community to have authentic conversations around addiction, recovery, and what matters. Growth and progress, not perfection. All while developing positive habits for you to utilize in your life. To learn more, please visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to receive the daily positive interventions that we'll review, as well as gain access to exclusive Positive Recovery content available only to Positive Recovery MD listeners. All right, let's get started.
Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another installment of Positive Recovery MD's podcast, where we have one of the most renowned cheerleaders in the world, who happens to be one of the 23 million Americans in recovery, Kendal Garza. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We send our guests these really drawn out personality profiles and questions, so we totally get to know them at depth. But kidding aside, she was on ESPN 6 times, and the People's Party of China asked her to come and show them what all this cheerleading business is about.
Yes.
How cool is that? So if you don't talk about that in your story, we're going to ask you about those two things. Those are wicked cool. So tell our listeners, if you will, sort of like what you do, and then tell us your story. Like, what was it like? What happened? And what it's like now.
Okay. I am a mother of 3. I have 2 of my own and a bonus son. He just turned 18. Right now, I work at Ameriprise Financial, client coordinator specialist. And I just went back to work after spending about 5 years as a stay-at-home mom. So it's been a little bit of a transition, but I like it. I like working. So as far as my story, I just hit a year sober on the 23rd of February.
That's right. I forgot to mention, that's my belly button birthday. So I'll always remember you. And don't ever do that. Yeah, it's a good day.
Yes. Well, it's something I definitely never thought I couldn't even have dreamed that I would be sober this long. So it's been amazing this past year. I've grown so much as a person, and I really realized, I had been to countless different rehabs and tried over so many years to get sober. The first part of that was to do it to, kind of get people off my back. Like, okay, I'll go, just stop harping on me. Then it got to a point where, my life was completely unmanageable and was falling apart around me, and couldn't seem to hold anything together. And that's when I personally decided to go to rehab on my own. And I had trouble, worked the steps diligently, did everything my sponsor said, but I had big difficulty with the whole higher power business. I grew up strict Catholic, and I was not okay with the whole fire and brimstone and shame and guilt. That was not my type of God. And so I rejected that. I said, I'll do the steps, but there is no God. What I realized after relapsing after that time was that's what I was missing. I had worked all the other steps, did everything I possibly could besides the higher power. And that's when I got really honest, went back into treatment. And I said, I struggle with this higher power thing. And I have an amazing sponsor who just had me do baby steps, think of something that has more power than you. It could be the tree outside, and that's what it kind of clicked for me. Like Mother Nature, I know, has more power than me. So I started praying, getting down on my knees. And at first I was just talking to nobody. And after a while, I realized I started getting these gifts, little signs that I couldn't have done on my own. And I realized that was my higher power. And so my growth in my spirituality has been just completely like it's been transcendent for me. And he has blessed me so much in so many different ways. So I feel like that this time was what I was missing. As far as my story goes, it started out most how most people do, your high school, have your first drink or, smoke pot for the first time.
Let's back up just a little bit, not to where you were a fetus, but where were you born, in what family?
Okay.
I know you were the oldest of 7.
Yes, I'm the oldest of 7, born in Houston, Texas. My parents, lovingly, my mother says I was a fraternity one-night stand blessing, she says. But my father, being the strict Catholic he was, he was only 20 when this happened. So he immediately married my mother. They were not a great fit. So they had me and my brother. Then they divorced, got remarried. My mother had 2 more children and my father had 3 more. So, and my father lives close. He lives about 15 minutes away. My mother lives in the same town as me. So I have good relationships with all of them, thankfully, still. See, when I was about 19 is when I took my first Vicodin. And
cheerleading injury?
No, my boyfriend had an injury. So he offered me, he very kindly offered me one of his pills. And that was the first time that I kind of felt, how they say, like that hole inside me kind of filled up a little bit, the anxiety left. And I felt comfortable in myself for the first time in my life, and that's what clicked for me. And ever since then, I'm 34 now. And so ever since 19, it's been a constant chase for that. It eventually led to heroin.
How? Because you were cheerleading in high school, I assume.
Yes.
And were you on ESPN when you were in high school? Because
yes.
Don't skip over these parts now. Come on.
Yes, I was on ESPN in high school. And when I got invited to China, they actually saw my cheerleading team on ESPN winning a championship. And so I was 15 at the time. They invited my whole cheerleading team to China for 2 weeks. We stayed in Shanghai and we did various performances throughout the city. We did a big performance at their soccer stadium. They were having a big soccer event. So we did a little routine there, and it was a great time. It was for 2 weeks when I was 15. It was a long time, but it was a great experience. And it's something that I look back on fondly because not a lot of people get to travel to China.
Right. What school were you at? You won the national cheerleading title in high school? What school was that?
Well, it wasn't through school. I was a cheerleader in school, but I did cheerleading, like all-star cheerleading,
like AAU or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what it was through.
Oh my God. That's amazing. How many on your squad?
There was about 21 of us on the team.
Oh, wow. How cool. And you never sustained an injury? Because before I met you, the story I made up in my head was, okay, she fell, she got on pain pills, and then she couldn't find pain pills and she graduated to heroin. But apparently that's not exactly the trajectory. You had a boyfriend that gave you Vicodin. How did you graduate to heroin? Was it a boyfriend that had it, or were you just at this point dependent, couldn't find Vicodin and cheaper alternative? Yeah. Okay.
Well, it got to the point where I was taking about 30 Vicodin a day and not getting the results I wanted. It wasn't. My tolerance had gone up too high. And so that graduated to Oxycontin. And I don't know if you know, but those are very expensive. I got to about taking 20 Oxy a day. Then I just realized heroin was cheaper, get the same effect, Unfortunately, I have had 3 overdoses. My poor husband is totally traumatized. My first overdose, he found me completely blue, non-responsive, not breathing. He did CPR on me for 4.5 minutes, and I woke up. Thank God. Thank all the gods that I did. And I still was in denial. When I got to the hospital, they didn't run tests on me immediately. So by the time they did run any tests for drugs, the doctor said that there wasn't enough for me to have overdosed. So he mentioned something, you probably have a heart condition. So that's what I ran with. No, it's not the drugs. It's not the drugs. I have a heart condition. I even went to the cardiologist, had a heart monitor put on, everything like that. Completely, totally in denial. Took another 2 times overdosing for me to kind of realize, okay, it's not my heart. It's what I'm putting in my body.
Wow. So how long have you been married?
I've been married 9 years. We've been together for 13. So
wow. And are you using medications in your recovery, or are you abstinent?
No, I'm not using any medications.
Got it.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's interesting, especially young people that relapse when heroin is the drug in the mix. It's like the recovery rates are not the same as with other substances. I know we like to think everything is exactly the same. And so, opiates were my thing, and I didn't get on Suboxone, and I don't feel like everybody needs it. And there is this big swing for so many people to be put on it. But, the truth is it does help outcomes. It decreases harm. And if everybody gets put on it, then you're sort of not giving people the opportunity to experience abstinence and see if that is something they want. And no, that's great. Good for you. I just assumed you're young and maybe you were on it, but I'm all off.
I tried the whole Suboxone thing. I went to a doctor, got prescribed the Suboxone, but for me, it was basically, and I know for some people it's a great thing. I mean, I believe it's a great drug, but for me, I felt like I was trading in one for another. I didn't want to be physically dependent on anything because I am tired of withdrawing. So even the Suboxone, I couldn't get off that without feeling those horrible withdrawals. So yeah, it's not for me. I feel better when I am completely, totally sober.
And so what finally you credit being in a halfway house, so a sober living community.
Yes.
That what was it about that? Or was it just that you had been through enough and you were done anyway? Or what was sort of the magic about that type of therapeutic community?
Well, all of my trips to rehab before, I would use my children kind of as an excuse. I need to get home to my kids. My kids need me. I can't stay longer. I can't do a sober house. I need to give it back to my kids. The last time I went to treatment, my higher power was just talking to me through people, how they say, and sober living kept being brought up. And finally I said, okay, I hear you. I'll do it. My husband at that point wasn't really keen on me coming home anyways. So, I could have honestly, but that was something that I hadn't tried yet. And I finally just was willing to try any and everything if I could stay sober. So I went to a sober living house. I stayed for 4 months. And I truly believe that made a huge difference. And me feeling more secure about my recovery, me making stronger connections in the community, which I believe we need because a lot of us isolate. It just helped me open up a door, the community, and it gave me a little bit more freedom, but also kept me accountable while I was there. So that's why it took some convincing, but talked my husband into opening our own sober living house for women.
And what is it called? It's
called Breathe Sober Living.
Nice. I love that. Do you offer meditative or yoga type of, is it centered around that type, what the name implies?
Well, yes. So it's 12-step centered. So we do, morning meditations every morning at 9 a.m. And we have weekly meetings, and, the girls are, they're given roles and all that fun stuff. They have curfews. They have to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And then after their 90 days, they have to do 3 meetings a week. They have to get their meeting sheets signed and everything like that. But, I realized in order for me to stay sober, I had to help others. And it's funny, I'd been selfish for so long that, it took a while for me to see that helping others is a big part of this recovery process. And we luckily had a rent house. We had a family living there. And I kept telling my husband, we need to turn this house into a sober living. We need to do this. We need to do this. And he kind of brushed me off. And a week later, the family called and said that they needed to break their lease because they had to move. And I said, see, Adam, my husband, I said, that is our higher power telling us that we need to do this, So he gave in and honestly, he loves it and I love it. And I love all the women there. I love just the opportunity to be a refuge place for any woman that, needs the extra help or doesn't have a place to go after treatment, So I'm really blessed that we're able to do that.
That's great. And it's in Texas City?
Yes.
And
Texas City, Dickinson area. I live in League City.
League City. Okay. Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So down by the Ship Channel area?
Yeah. It's right off of like 146. So you're coming straight down from Kemah down to Galveston. It's right down there.
Oh, cool. All right. Yeah. Julie lives out by there.
So they're just south of Kemah. So Breed Lodge was born as a result kind of your experience. And it seems like, you as a cheerleader, now maybe you're a cheerleader for recovery.
Yeah, you could say so.
So maybe your house has to develop a cheer.
That's a good idea. We should develop a little cheer rant, we can say.
Yeah.
So I know that you shared the favorite advice that you ever received was forgive yourself for allowing others to affect your sense of worth. So how do you bring that into the house with the women? Because a lot of time I think very early in recovery, particularly women, we really do kind of wonder about, do we deserve this? Are we worthy? And that. So how do you bring that into the house?
Well, I will say that forgiving myself was a really difficult thing. So when I did my step 4, I could forgive everybody but myself. So that took a lot of work. So what I focus on with the girls is, not keeping secrets. If there's something that you feel is weighing on you, something that maybe you've done or that you can't really forgive yourself for, talk about it. Let's be open about it. Let's get that secret out of the dark and take the power away from it, And I feel like once you're able to kind of admit that, I've done this horrible X, Y, and Z, and you kind of bring it to the light, it gives it less power and you're able to manage that like fear and regret that you have, for yourself and that anger towards yourself. No, that's something with the girls that I talk about a lot because I struggled with, and I know lots of women do, especially if you have children and you're an alcoholic or an addict, is, the whole forgiving yourself for it. Because, what kind of a mother would do this? But that's something that I definitely talk about with the girls a lot. Want them to know that it's okay to forgive yourself. And also, you are not what other people think of you. You are your own person. And what you think about yourself is what matters most in this world.
Absolutely. The work of Brene Brown, I don't know if you're familiar with her. Yeah,
yes,
so she's done great work on, my self-worth is not on the table. It's not negotiable. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. So I heard somebody in a meeting say, some newcomer was like complaining about how like they're a wretch because of what they did. And she's like, listen, if there's a word for it, somebody else before you did it. Relax. There's a word for it. You're not alone. It's like, yeah, we all make mistakes.
Yeah, there was stuff on my, when I did my 5th step with my sponsor that I just wasn't willing to even write down on paper because I thought it was just so horrible. And I was like, she's going to think I'm the worst person in the world and, blah, blah, blah. And after I said these things, she was like, yeah, I did that too. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Somebody's saying, yeah, me too, or
right.
I've been there. That's just very helpful. Thank you for the work
down there in League City with Breathe Lodge. If someone wanted to, Kendal, if someone wanted to get in touch with you or find out more about Breathe Lodge, how would they do that?
Okay. Well, we have a Facebook page and it's Breathe Sober Living. Also, we have an email, breathesoberliving@yahoo.com, or they can call me on my cell phone and my number is 832-804-0073.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kendal.
All right. So moving into rapid fire fun questions, just whatever's on the top of your head when you hear it. Answer. Okay. So here it goes. What is your favorite word?
Oh my gosh. My favorite word. Honestly, I think my favorite word right now would have to be growth.
And your least favorite word?
No.
And your favorite sound?
My favorite sound is my husband's singing voice.
Oh, well, if he was here, we'd make him sing because that's how we roll. But Julie will just sing for us later. What's your least favorite sound?
Babies crying.
Yeah, I'm down with that. And what gets your motor rev the most? Like, what are you most passionate about?
I am most passionate. That's a word that I've been called a lot in my life. Passionate. Which I believe is a nice way of saying difficult, opinionated, strong-willed. What gets me, I think, kind of revved up is lately we've seen a lot, with politics and everything like that, at least these social injustices. So I get a little revved up when talking about the social injustices and, people who don't believe in Black Lives Matter and, all that stuff. So that's definitely something that can get me revved up pretty quickly.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast when Black Lives Matter was fairly new of two Black people that were ragging on it. And the argument was really convoluted and I kind of got it, but like, I'm not even touching it. But it's funny because you're like, you get passionate about people that don't like it, even if they're, Black. Like, well, wait a minute, that movement's not exactly what our people stand for, whatever.
Right.
It's not like it's a universally accepted good thing.
I know.
But anyway, I have a Black Lives Matter mask when, they started printing them, early in the pandemic. And it's like the most comfortable one. It's cotton. And after I heard the podcast, I'm like, wait a minute, am I sending the wrong message? What am I doing?
No, I have a sign. I have a Black Lives Matter sign.
Yeah. I mean, like, God, it's just crazy how the statistics, like for me, I'm not really sure about the movement, but I am sure about like, if you're colored in this country, there's like a 70% chance in a certain age group, if you're male, that you're going to be incarcerated, which is like insane. It's like completely like, how do we not fix it? But let's not go down that rabbit hole because we could.
Yes.
God, that's not this type of podcast. So what turns you off? If like what gets your motor revving, I meant in a good way. And I think probably what turns you off is social injustice. So maybe what turns you on, like, in the same sort of good way?
Right now, what turns me on is seeing these relationships with family and friends that I have completely destroyed and ruined, starting to turn around and just starting to trust me again. And I for years did the whole, I'm sorry, I don't want to be like this. And I meant every word of it, but all that matters are my actions. So now that they're seeing my actions change, they're coming around again. And it's something I'm forever grateful for because, these relationships with family and friends mean everything to me. Just that they're willing to give me a chance, to stick around and see how I'm going to do means everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. Imagine there's an alternate universe with Kendal and she could do anything she wants. What vocation would you love to have a stab at?
Are we talking about like superpowers here? Or?
I know I really went to the multiverse, but no superpowers. Just, if you could do something else, like what would be a dream job? Say, did you at one point want to be an NFL cheerleader or an NBA cheerleader?
Actually, if I could have my way, I would live on a big farm and have every type of animal that you could dream of.
I could dream of some crazy animals.
Yeah. I would love to do that. My father-in-law actually has a ranch and he has many donkeys and horses and stuff. And I love going out there. I love being in nature. And I'm one of those people that prefers animals to people most of the time. So that's something that I would love to do is, just to have a little farm with a bunch of animals on it that I can care for.
So I don't know if you can remember this, but check out Gold Shaw Farms. It's a YouTube. He has YouTube. It's a guy that, like you, had a job, doing, I don't know, insurance adjusting or something. And he just was like, I want to be on a farm. And it's like the last 4 years, he's like documented so much, and it's cool. And he kind of teaches you how to do it. And all the, he's way up in Vermont or somewhere freezing, but it's kind of cool. Anyway, Gold Shaw Farms, check it out because you could make that dream come true. But speaking of anti-dreams, what vocation would you loathe doing if you had to do every day?
Oh, probably anything to do with business or marketing.
Okay.
Which is funny because that's what my husband does. He's a marketing guy, but yeah, I have no interest in that stuff. And to me, it just seems a little kind of repetitive and pandering a little bit.
Well, I hope he doesn't listen to this.
I know. I appreciate all his hard work, but he's great at it.
I'm not sure he's singing for you tonight.
Well, it's good. This won't drop for a few weeks. So. All right, Julie, you want to?
I do. Thank you so much for that. So start with a quote. John Milton. Gratitude bestows reverence, allowing us to encounter everyday epiphanies, the transcendent moments of awe that change forever how we experience life and the world. So the positive intervention for today was to make a gratitude list. So Kendal, were you able to make a gratitude list, or is that something that's part of your normal daily practice?
Yeah, it is. Especially when I first got out of rehab, I was doing daily gratitude lists. Unfortunately, life gets in the way, but anytime I do have the time and I have to sit and think about it, I absolutely make gratitude lists. Today I put on my list, that I'm grateful for my relationship with my higher power, that I was able to connect with one of my own understanding, and that that relationship continues to grow. I'm grateful for the chance to rebuild all the relationships in my life that I absolutely did not believe that I was even worth having the opportunity to fix them. So now I do believe I'm worth it. And I'm grateful that, I'm having the chance to rebuild those. And I'm also grateful for the opportunity to grow in recovery by helping other women, by sponsoring other women and by my sober living house.
That's awesome. Yeah, the focus for the positive intervention that you did was to really focus on things like connection to others, love, and hope, which you certainly brought to what you shared. And Dr. Powers, I know that a lot of times we talk about daily gratitude lists because it's just a thing, but statistically, could you share with our listeners why it's probably not always a good idea to do a daily gratitude list?
Yeah. So Kendal, you actually are doing yourself a favor by not doing a daily gratitude list, because believe it or not, even though, gratitude is a great thing, almost the best of things, it's got the most amount of evidence in terms of, something that boosts your well-being. Gratitude is amazing. There's tons of studies, but if you do it every day, you actually make it lose its power. That is a gratitude list. Not having a gratitude attitude, that, if you're always being gratitude detective and that type of thing, it's fine. But putting paper to pen, the optimal frequency is once a week, believe it or not. And people it's, if you do it every day, the thing, it's kind of like rote, and then it loses its magic. People that did a gratitude journal, if we mapped out their happiness over time, and you compare it to lottery winners, at first the lottery winners' well-being is way higher than those who start doing a gratitude journal, because you have the 10 million count thread, Italian cotton sheets, and you get to travel. So your well-being's high. But at 6 months, they're equal. And at a year, the gratitude journal wins out every time. It's higher well-being at a year doing a gratitude journal versus winning a lottery. if you're like most people, then like most people, you don't think you're like most people, which makes you like most people. We'd sell the farm for the lottery. And then,
well, I definitely found when I was doing a daily gratitude list that it became difficult to think of new things to be grateful for. I even started putting down like, I'm grateful for true crime podcasts, but yeah, it definitely gets a little repetitive, and I can definitely see that. So I'm glad I'm on par with the 1 week thing, because that's about when I do my gratitude list, is about every week.
That's optimal. And another thing is like asking people to come up with, say, 10 close friends or something that really not many people have, diminishes well-being, because they're like, you're trying to come up with like 10 close friends, and not many people have more than 1 or 2,
right?
Like really close confidants, maybe 3, but it's just the nature of life. And so like trying to come up with 10 people, like get down to 3, 4, 5, 6. They're like, oh my God, I can't think of anybody. I must be a loser.
It sets its precedence for failure, kind of like you're setting yourself up to fail and feel bad about yourself.
These are the type of things we discovered in positive psychology, like, the arm of psychology that's not as interested in as like, what's wrong with you, or, what can go bad, but like, how do you, where do you find happiness, and how can you help people thrive? So yeah, you're doing great with the gratitude list. You're doing great with the work you do out there for women.
Thank you,
Julie,
so much.
You got anything else?
No, I don't. And I just, want to say thank you, Kendal, for what you're doing. And it is sometimes all the little small things that add up to the big things. So congratulations on celebrating 1 year of sobriety. Congratulations on Breath Lodge.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks so much, Kendal. And I'm sure everybody enjoyed as much as we did. Breathe Sober Lodge is what it's called, or Breathe Sober?
Breathe Lodge.
Breathe Lodge, that's it?
Yes.
Nice.
But you can find us on Facebook and through our email through Breathe Sober Living.
Breathe Sober Living. That's what I was thinking of. Okay. Well, thanks. And everybody out there, take care of yourselves and others. This is all we got. It's not a dress rehearsal. So until next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Positive Recovery MD. Don't forget to visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to get your daily positive intervention sent straight to your inbox. Be sure to subscribe to Positive Recovery MD on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts to receive an automatic download when a new episode drops. And as always, if you or someone you know needs help, visit positiverecovery.com or call 877-4-SOBRIETY, which is 877-476-2743. We are here to help.